Israel did not even shoot one bullet. And it was under threat. And it was about to be destroyed. No one, all the time you used to hear the, the alarm, sound. Everywhere you go. So whether Israel was under threat, it was under threat, but it never used nuclear weapon. So it's not about what we think, okay, if I'm in threat, okay, I'll throw the nuclear weapon and everything will be sorted. Even from the history of the Israelis, they did not use it when they lost the 73 war. They did not use it when they fought against it, when Iraq launched war against them, and they were probably going to throw on them chemical weapons. No one would know whether this will be chemical or not chemical. So you are waiting for them to throw on you chemical weapons, and you are sitting in your house. How strong you are with this nuclear weapon you are having. So it is international issue when it comes to the nuclear weapon.
I think the exact, the brother mentioned the point about Israel and the Americans and the relationship between the two. Now the exact, the difference between the Israelis and the Americans was upon the issue of money. The Israeli money is $4 billion from the Americans to $3 billion. And America refused. And Israel totally said, look, for you, we are the equivalent of 6 aircraft carriers permanently stationed in the Middle East. And each aircraft carrier, the running cost per year is $6 billion, and you only give us $4 billion for all of them. In fact, you should be giving us $35 billion to offset the cost of our presence. Now, when you look at Israel, you need to understand its predicament. But I mentioned the point about Israel thinking it was invincible, and the brother corrected me. But what I meant by this was that Israel thought itself to be invincible as long as these Muslim rulers were there. And let me just highlight one simple fact to you. Go to Denal, where's the Denal? That one there. Right. This is a Denal howitzer produced by the South Africans. The Saudis and the Judea and the Qatar and UAE, they own 300 of these. Go back to the map. Right. This is a range of 70 kilometers. Now when you look at the map of Israel, when you look at the map of Israel, you can see the distances. There isn't a single point on Israel which is out of range of this weapon system. Not a single point. So even if whatever aircraft you have, whatever weapon system you have, you're still within range of the Muslim artillery. They're in the millimeter out of range. So in fact, what is actually keeping the Israeli state alive is actually the treachery of the Muslim rulers. If they wanted to take out Israel, no problem. Even with nuclear weapons, Muslims, we possess nuclear weapons as well. Not only we don't possess nuclear weapons, we do. Pakistan has need of 200 warheads. Now, the same with nuclear weapons as this is there's a very famous quote from the Romans, which says that the purpose of having a big army is that you don't have to fight. You don't have to batter people because an army costs a lot of money. And the purpose of nuclear weapons is that you don't have to use them. So that people become scared without you actually having to use these things. Because end of the day, in a conflict between the Israelis and the Muslims, whether they nuke one city or two of Muslim cities, you're not going to save their population will be finished. All 8 million of them. And everyone knows that this is the case. And even the Yahud, they feel that this is the case. They feel that the ground has changed, that the reality of the Muslim world has changed. They feel that sincere leadership is on its way, and they will be finished. Because the weapons are already there to finish it.
Just one request from the brother that when you refer to occupied land Palestine, you don't use Israel. And I think you have to be from there probably to be that sensitive. Any question from
people text me questions?
Okay.
So I'm getting brothers and sisters texting me about my
okay,
so the brother says a simple question is to the brother, what have the Muslim countries to gain by protecting Israel? What's the objective of the Muslim countries to protect Israel?
It's not the Muslim countries that are protecting Israel, it's the Muslim regimes that are protecting the Israeli government. And that's simply because they do not represent the people. And if you look at the prisons in the Muslim world, they are not packed of thieves and killers, they are packed of people who are oppositions. So if you go all over the Muslim world, if you go to prisons, it's political, they call them political oppositions. And this is where you will see the prisons are packed off. So those people who are protecting the Israeli government and the so-called Israel are the people who do not represent the Muslims, rather they are the people who represent those who implanted Israel in the Middle East.
Yeah, just, I mean, when somebody looks in the history of these nations, they will find that the very same people that created Israel were actually their creators. So the people who created Saudi and Jordan and Egypt and these countries are the same people that created Israel. And believe me, you know, there is a master-slave relationship, and they even described in their own memoirs, you know, the Sykes-Picot Agreement, how the Saudis, when asked what amount of land you want, they started to weep and say, you know, you are like our mother and father, you give us whatever you want and we'll be happy. And they were literally on their feet. And you know, we remember even the Young Turks, how when the British ambassador came to Istanbul, they took the horse from the front of the cart and told it to do one, so that they could pull the cart themselves, showing their subservience to them. So this is their mentality, but I think the point is quite succinct, that the Muslim masses don't have this subservience, and the Muslim masses have a totally different kind of relationship. But is there any more questions that have been texted to you?
Yeah.
So we can take from the floor and the gentleman.
There's one more just come in. Should we boycott their products, or will that be counterproductive for the Palestinians?
So I think this, yeah, boycott.
I think the people who mostly use the Israeli products are the Palestinians, and they can't live without it. So it's not about, probably, this is not the way that we sort out the problem. And I really don't understand, why don't people boycott the American products? Why don't people boycott the British products? Why is it only the Danish and the Israelis? It's the same.
And also, Israel's rebranding its products as coming from the West Bank, coming from Gaza, and you know, it's muddying the water. So there are those issues as well. Are there any more? Are there any written questions anywhere lying around? No. Okay. Well, let Muzammil add on to that point quickly. We'll have Junaid's questions and Adam's questions.
To understand the Muslim rulers, you have to look where these people actually came from. In Arabic, you have a word called sufara. I think the brother can explain it better than me. And these people are the Muslim rulers of the sufara are the people who are the small-minded fools who, when given a small amount, are happy with it. You know, they're almost like junkies. A junkie will bring to you a £400 system, £400 laptop, and sell it for £20. Now this is the example of the rule of the Muslim lands. They will take a whole land with billions and sell it for a few pennies. Now, to understand them, you need to know that the agreement that they have with the West, so that they maintain their seats, is that they support the existence of Israel. This is part of their contract with the West for staying in power. If they do anything against this, then they feel the West will remove them from power.
I've got 2 questions from Facebook.
Right?
So I'll deal with them now.
Okay.
It's got 2 questions.
Okay.
I just got a question. Assalamu alaikum. Mohammed Mursi's position here, I don't think you've touched upon his position here. Some people are saying, look, he's just come into government, yeah, and they've got massive economic problems in the country. So going into a war with Israel is going to cost him too much. It's not really viable for him, because he's got people to look after. Opening up the borders, again, you're going to get more refugees. He's already got so much poverty going on. So you need to give Mursi some time here.
I think those people who say that.
One second, sorry, let me repeat that question for people who hear. The question is, Mohammed Mursi's position, we haven't really talked about it today. Is he not in a difficult position with Egyptians' economic problems? There are also some political problems within Egypt. And is it realistic to say you can just fight for the liberation of Palestine?
I think the brothers who say that, if they just look a little bit with attention to what's going on, they would have learned from the Americans that when they bankrupt, they go and fight. This is the way for them to earn money. So if someone says that the war will make me lose, this means that he knows that he is not fighting, he's just losing. So saying that a war will definitely means lose, we know it from the time of the messenger until the time of the Byzantines, the Romans, all these people, they never found war is a loss. And the contrary for them, it's a win. Because if they go and fight other nation, then there will be, if they are occupying it, they'll take its resources. If they are fighting it, there will be booty. And if they are retaining their land is back to them. So they are never losing. So if they want to look at it from that point of view, then obviously Egypt will be all the time in debt. But for them to bring themselves back again, to make the motion back again, then they will need to liberate the land that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has entrusted them as Muslims to follow.
I think one other point to add on to that is that when we talk about asking the Muslim rulers to do something because obviously they're in those positions, if somebody says sincerely, you know what, I'm not in a position to do this at the moment, but what I am doing is I'm using all my resources and energy and mobilizing the masses and building an industrial base and developing the capability to do this is what I'm doing. In this situation, even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives them that permission because the rule is based on capability and you try to develop that capability. However, if you have that capability already and then you make all these excuses, then that's essentially what they are. They are excuses, and as we've defined some of the reality of Israel, if Muhammad Morsi and his government expect and congratulate the Gazans on defending Gaza from the Israeli army, then I think they have a better capability than the civilians and the children in Gaza. So even that excuse is not really palatable. We'll take the
point that you just made about almost stepping back for the Egyptians and then to obviously go forward and they've got more power, as it were. Well, shouldn't that be something what the Palestinian government should be looking at as well, rather than fighting every day against the Israeli occupation and killing civilians, killing combatants without the actual resources? Step back, regroup, and then move forward.
Yeah, unfortunately,
I thought everybody else could hear the question. The question was, essentially, correct me if I'm wrong, is it sensible for the Palestinian brothers to go out every day or every other day fighting when they have no capability to really do what? Isn't it wiser for them to step back, regroup, and then
build the infrastructures, build the armies as army as they can build, build the artillery, and then
build their armies.
Jazakallah khair for the question. It's quite an important question. There is a very well-known term that is used these days in the Palestinian politics. It's called the word inbitah. Inbitah is when you just put your hand like this on the floor and lie like this. And this is what the stand of the Palestinian Authority for years now. So it's not that they are fighting. All they are doing is doing exactly what the Israeli government wants. And what you have just recently in the few weeks ago, it is localized. They call it in their terms, harb tahrikiyya. It's just moving war, which means when they want to pass a decision, they make like a war until they pass what they want. Every time you see Israeli election, you will see thousands of Palestinian Muslims are killed as a campaign for free. So these wars that you see or you hear, they are not wars. They call it localized war, so that what Israeli government wants, it passes. Sometimes it is the people of the Israeli government who does these things and start the agitation of Israel. Do you think one rocket will cause this damage to Gaza and the people of Gaza will be happy for it? They won't be happy for it. So it's just a way that the Israeli government, before elections, these things happen. In 1992, Sharon is one of the well-known prime ministers, sorry, not Sharon, Shamir, one of the well-known prime ministers of Israel. He was a very vicious person. He was from the Haganah movement. This person, he won the Labour Party because he was from Likud. He won the Labour Party saying, if you keep facilitating the Palestinians to do suicidal attacks on buses, we will have a serious problem with us. So he did not attack the Palestinians, he attacked the Labour Party because he accused them of facilitating for the Palestinians to do these attacks against the Israeli people. You call them civilians, by the way. All the Israelis from the age of 16, they are soldiers. To let you know just about this. They don't have civilians there except for the law.
Shouldn't education be a key point then? It's not regrouping and moving militarily, but actually education for the Ummah within
So another question was should not education be a point for them?
Yeah, it's like a two-point strategy of not just military fighting the might of America and its allies.
I mean, I think we need to go back to understand what we mentioned in terms of what Gaza is essentially. Gaza is essentially civilians. They don't really have a